I'm Michael Chambers. I'm a partner and head of dispute resolution at Forbes Solicitors. I'm joined by Sadie Butler today, who is head of Forbes Collect, to run through some of the frequently asked questions we have from clients looking to recover debts. Sadie, is there anything which businesses can do now to protect themselves from having bad debts in the first place?
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, there are a few things that businesses can do to prevent bad debt or protect themselves at the moment against bad debt. Our first tip is knowing your customer, knowing exactly who it is that you are dealing with. And this involves as well the legal entity of the customer. So whether that's a limited company, an individual or a sole trader. It's also worth considering doing credit applications or client care letters. This should also help you determine the legal entity of that customer or client that you're dealing with. As well, you may consider credit checks against companies. This will give you kind of an overview of the financial status of that company, and it may be worth also saying no to credit if the company wants credit but you aren't comfortable in doing so. My second tip is having the clarity of an agreement. So whether that's a written formal agreement, client care letters, or a simple email where you've sent outlining the work that you're going to carry out and the charges that are involved with that. Also, it's worth considering payment on account before any work is carried out, whether that's the full amount of invoices due or half of the amount, whatever that might be. This just protects you just in case it turns into a bad debt or invoices aren't paid by that customer or client. It's also worth considering incentives for those customers or clients that pay early or pay before the invoice due date. Similarly, it's worth considering penalties for late payment or late payment of any invoices that are outstanding. The third and final tip is in regards to payment methods and credit control procedures. In terms of payment methods, you need to provide as many methods as possible. So that might be bank transfer, credit debit card payments, telephone payments, cheque payments, and if you are able to offer it, it's a very good offering, online payments. Just gives them a lot less excuses for why they haven't made that payment. Also, it's worth putting shorter timescales on invoice due dates. It just means that the earlier that you chase that outstanding invoice, the more chance that you have of recovering the outstanding amount. In terms of credit control, you need a well-publicised credit control policy. It needs to be quite strict that you yourself and your staff stick to, because if your staff don't stick to this policy, then why would debtors stick to it too, or customers or clients stick to it? The last point is you may want to consider invoice finance and credit insurance. This just makes sure that if you do find yourself in a position where you do have a bad debt or you've suffered a bad debt and a customer or client has gone bust, you are covered and you should receive payment for that outstanding invoice. They're the 3 tips.
Thanks, Sadie. So if a business still has customers or clients that won't pay, what information do they need to give you in order to be able to recover that debt for them?
The information that we need is any outstanding invoices. It'd be great if we could have a copy of those. If there are numerous invoices that are outstanding, then a statement should suffice that'll include all the invoices on there. Any agreements or client care letters in place, or any confirmation of work to be carried out or goods to be delivered, and confirmation of charges. And lastly, any relevant information in regards to the debtor would be email addresses, phone numbers, employment statuses, or the legal entity of the customer, anything that you feel we would need to know.
Thanks. And once you've got all that information, then what's your process? What do you do next?
So first and foremost, once a client passes a file over to us, we will run the relevant checks. So for companies, we have a look on Companies House, and for individuals, we look on the Insolvency Register. Once those checks are completed, we send the debtor a letter before action. This is the first letter detailing that we now represent you, the details of the outstanding invoices, ways that they can pay, but also the deadline that they've got to respond or make payment, and the further action that we can take if they don't make payment. After that, if we still haven't had a response or payment, we send a further chaser letter and a final demand. Once the final demand has gone, and if we haven't had a response or a payment, we can then look further down the line at issuing insolvency proceedings, county court proceedings, in the hope of gaining a county court judgment against the debtor to secure your debt. And lastly, you can look at enforcement proceedings should the file go that far, but we can obviously advise you throughout every step of the way and advise you of the best way for your particular case.
Thanks, Sadie. As well as the principal sum that a client is seeking to recover, what else can be included in a debt recovery action?
So this is something that clients aren't usually aware of. We are able to claim interest and late payment compensation on top of outstanding invoices. This is subject to other agreements stipulating otherwise. But if you are able to claim statutory interest, there is an interest rate for both individuals and companies, slightly different. Companies, you're able to claim a little bit more, and it's accrued from the date that the invoice fell due to the date that you receive payment, and obviously accrues at a daily rate as well. We do have an interest calculator on our Forbes Solicitors website under Forbes Collect. But at the end of this video, there will be a link for you to click on. Alternatively, if you do want to have a look at that interest calculator and want more information, then please just give us a message or leave a message below. In terms of late payment compensation, this is the last bit of the cost that you are able to claim. This is only on business-to-business debts and comes in a 3-tiered process and is applicable on each invoice. So you're able to claim it per invoice. So they are your extra costs that you're able to claim on top of any outstanding debts.
That's great, Sadie. With the lockdown that's underway at the moment and restrictions being in place, are courts working as normal? Are there any restrictions at all?
At the moment, with the current pandemic, everything is business as usual for the recovery of debts and issuing claims and securing judgments against debtors. Similarly, it's the same for enforcement agents and enforcement proceedings. Enforcement agents are still attending addresses of debtors, albeit keeping the social distancing guidelines, but enforcement and issuing is still the same.
That's great. Thanks very much, Sadie. Our contact details are on the final page here, and as Sadie mentioned before, we've also got a link to our interest payment calculator as well. Thanks very much.